to see
Yes!
and have created a world where
You
all
know,
the suffering exists.
I literally predicted that she would say this.
Well, you raise a great point
Literally
there.
predicted
I'll just interrupt
this.
you quick.
An addicted,
There we go.
obsessive OCD psychology. I'm a need machine, duh. And sometimes my needs take form that are problematic.
The majority of you are psychotic lunatics that probably should be. I mean, you know.
I have, this extreme attachment problem. It's just part of how my brain works. So, yeah, I like Gary. I totally admit that I have an emotional attachment to Gary.
Yes, of course. If persuading doesn't work, I would argue that sure, go ahead, you're downstairs, whatever, do whatever you have to do.
Every woman I ever stuck my into, I said, I don't care whether the condom breaks, I don't care whether magic fairy sticks in your. If you get pregnant, you're either going down a or you're getting a, but you ain't having no kid. I will you.
Well, that's disgusting that you even say that.
I would if she tried to have my baby.
There's nobody in the world like Gary. I think he deserves, and I know deserve is a tricky word, but I'm going to go ahead and use it. I think he deserves to be loved and admired.
Your kids. Don't wait too long to do it, okay? But yeah, do it.
Really think about it for a minute. If a baby was sound asleep, let's say a 2-year-old baby, sound asleep, and we just give it and we just make it sleep. Have we committed a crime? Is a horrible tragedy taking place? Has there been, some buckets of horrible anguish and suffering? Have they taken place?
I sort of do. I mean, I have to admit it that I kind of, if I'm going to be honest, I do want to. I would like to have the right to do it. I want the official, if there's going to be somebody who's going to be the official executioner or the official cop that's going to impose the penalty, I kind of want to do it.
Look, in the interest of the end, if you could end suffering tomorrow, probably anything is justifiable. Inflicting just about anything is probably justifiable. Imposing just about anything is probably justifiable if you can.
This is her mentor.
If there's literally
that's her mentor.
No more ouch ever again, then there probably isn't a big enough ouch you could make that
her mentor
justified in the interest of that end. Probably by any means necessary. If I found out tomorrow that the only way that sentient extinction could possibly happen was all the living things alive slowly, I'd hate it.
So it was nice having a YouTube channel while it lasted. I really enjoyed my YouTube channel up until now.
Yeah. Sorry about that. And this is not to say that Amanda's responsible for everything Gary said, but the gentleman you saw in the clip is kind of the guy who helped introduce her to her ideology, which is Ephilism. She's made a documentary, a movie about it, and has worked with this guy for a long time. And again, it's not that she's responsible for everything he's ever said, but there are some things within those clips that I think need to be touched on. I don't think we can just pretend that this is only an intellectual debate and we're only talking about philosophical ideas. I think there's a very strong reason to believe from those videos that these are people who do
bring
not,
out the demon.
Because they don't only share a worldview with us, they have a worldview that says it's permissible to do the things you just heard about if it means ultimately ending all life, getting rid of life so that there's no future suffering. And that poses a very serious philosophical question, which is why shouldn't we, the rest of us, the majority who do feel life is worth living, do feel life has meaning, do think there's good and evil, why should we not see this as a threat to humanity and instead, deal with the problem of people who want to wipe out everyone else because they feel that existence is such a horrible thing? So let's kick it off with that.
All right, sure thing. Sounds good. That sounds like a good place to start the back and forths. And like I said, guys, you can appeal to the moderator at any stage if you'd like. And we'll be reading out the super chats at the end. So with that, let's kick off.
Well, I certainly can't. I don't agree with everything that Inmendum has said. This is a person that has made well over 15,000 videos. So there's the good, there's the bad, and there's the ugly. And so that is a collection of the ugly. If you watch my movie, The Ephilism, which is based on Inmendum's philosophy, it doesn't contain any of those statements. I think that sentient life is a precious, vulnerable fragile thing in harm's way when we produce it. So all of the horrors that are possible, procreators run the risk of their children befalling when they make the
Nobody's
decision
ever
to
seen
do
that
this.
live, by the
Now,
way.
I don't, the clip
She
that
went
you
on all
played,
these channels,
most
and
of
none
those
of
are
them
statements that I've
ever
never said.
showed
So,
that.
with all
None
due
of
respect,
them.
if you wanted to have an argument with Gary, maybe you should
No.
reach out to him and have
No,
an
I
argument with
definitely
Gary,
don't.
because those are not my arguments. Now, if you want to talk
Right,
about the
but
skinning
that's
people
the reason
alive
I-
argument, I'm happy to acknowledge that. So I think I went a little far with that argument, but that was sort of the point. It was a completely, what's the word for it? You could not possibly cause sentient extinction by skinning every living thing alive.
Right.
It's an absolutely insane thing to
Right.
say. And that was
I-
the point of
yeah.
saying it, was to find an example
That's worse for
that
your
could
position,
not
lady.
possibly exist. And it is a
That's worse for your
philosophical point.
position.
What is an acceptable price for no more suffering ever?
Right.
And I struggle with that. I don't think that it's an easy question to answer. Again, I answered
Actual
it
demons.
in an incredibly hyperbolic
Bring it out,
fashion.
Rachel.
We'll get
with
Rach
an
to
eggplant.
respond to that one.
And I don't, to be fair, Andrew and I both have had
be
our
fair.
fair share of people taking clips of things we've said that with
Yeah.
no context sound crazy and
This is the
sound insane.
internet.
I wasn't trying to do that at all, which is why at the end I did include that, because I do understand you're giving a hypothetical we're not going to have to deal with.
Right.
It's not like that's going to happen, but it does kind of illustrate for us just how far you go compared to some other antinatalists who just
Sure.
think it's better to like plead with people to have less children or things like that. You really do think that, and I'll give you credit, by the way, because I've had this argument with other people where they refuse to take this ideology and this philosophy to its logical end conclusion. They
She's putting
try
her
to,
in a
like,
comfort
equivocate
zone
on
right
that,
now,
and
by the
you
way.
are more likely
Rachel's
to
a
bite the bullet
master
and
at
just say,
this.
yeah,
Putting her in the
ultimate end
comfort zone to
goal
get that view
is
out.
for nothing to exist. Like,
Watch
that
her
would
pull
be
this view
best.
out,
in a
though.
world of goods, betters, and bests, non-existence is best. So what is the philosophy behind why non-existence, or at least non-sentience, is best?
Sure. Well, the whole point is that the creation
Already.
of life creates the existence of
Already.
something and manipulation. And I find that to be completely unacceptable, because we do so for absolutely no reason. Like I was saying in my introduction, before something exists, it is not in need. We are in need. The people that procreate, the animals that procreate, whatnot, we have a sense of utility for this thing that does not yet exist, to carry on our legacy, or carry on our ideas, or carry on our worldview, or love us.
Yeah, this is
or
my
there's something
interpretation
that
of this
we're
debate,
getting
yes.
From
I'm slightly biased, as I happen
grabbing
to be
something out
banging
of
one of the people
nothing
who's
and
debating. What do you
putting
want me
it
to
in
say? I'm
harm's
very
way.
biased.
Now, as far as extinctionism goes, I mean, I understand it can, the internet is a highly
What do you want me to say?
hyperbolic proposal to make these arguments.
What do you want me to say?
And I've definitely maybe overstepped bounds at times, as I think maybe.
Never seen
we all
Rachel
have
debate.
at
She's
some
better
point
than
or
me.
another. But what I am
She's always been
pleading
better
with
than
the
me.
human
She's always
race
been smarter than me when it
to
comes to debate.
consider are the harms.
She's the worst
that
Wilson.
we inflict
Watch.
when we make procreative
Watch.
decisions. And I think that at some point humanity will end. Whether it's I think it's highly unlikely that humanity is
Say
going to
which
make
one?
this-
They say
this
which one?
voluntary decision, which was what I would like to see happen, where we all
This
decide
one.
through a collective act of non-procreation. And that's really what the argument that I'm trying to make. But I think if you are not only a anthropocentric antinatalism, which means that you're only concerned with human procreation, but you're also a sentiocentric antinatalist, so you believe that the existence of animal lives or beyond is also one of the biggest emergencies in the universe, then I believe that our extinction carries with it some duties to them. And unfortunately, there's no way of undoing life without either sterilizing those lives or even ending those lives. And I'm talking about the lives of other sentient creatures. Now, I don't propose, as you were saying, we don't have that technology. Like the red button is not a real proposal. It is a philosophical idea and it has its roots far beyond antinatalism. But I think that we need to do the right thing. We need to be thinking about that end. How do we end gracefully and not badly? Because the end of humanity, the end of sentient life, I think it is a reality that will befall living things at some point.
Why?
And how do we do that with compassion?
We don't need
and
to
I think that you can't do that with
She's a
compassion
liar.
without making the argument.
Don't fucking buy
for
this
what
shit,
at least would
Rachel.
be
She's
better,
fucking
what at
lying.
least
She
would
wants
be
it
the right thing,
exterminated
if we don't
now,
have the tools to
not
do that.
sometime in the
How can
future.
that happen in the most graceful, compassionate way possible?
Lies.
Sure.
Bring it out.
So that was all kind of a big plea, like, I'm not a monster. What I'm saying is actually compassionate. Just like I said in my opening, I think this is going to be constantly framed as, I'm actually the nice one. Rachel wants you all to exist and suffer. Amanda care so much that I think you'd all be better off.
Rachel,
and
I don't think you're a bad person.
Stop cutting
well,
in,
no,
Amanda.
I'm
Shut
not
your
even
mouth,
saying
Amanda.
you think that. I'm saying you think one view is the benevolent view to hold and the other is a cruel view to hold. And this poses an epistemic question. How do you know that there's no reason or purpose behind suffering?
Well, look, I think that it is neither really a benevolent or villainous position to hold, natalism. I think that it is a natural thing that people fall into that most people don't think about at all. And so it just sort of happens, unfortunately, that there's, most of us are here because nobody thought about things too hard. They just sort of acted within the heat of the moment. And then, a new sentient being pops up. What was your question? I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
No,
fucking-
How do you know that there's no reason or purpose behind suffering?
Well, I think that there is a reason and purpose behind suffering. I mean, suffering for the living does build character. We have to know when something is it's a warning.
Then why do you want to
signal.
kill everybody,
It
sicko?
has all kinds of utility once we exist. The point is, there's no reason to impose that onto something that doesn't need it.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
It's interesting too that you said you think that most of us are here because people just didn't really think about it. And I've watched a lot of your videos and I've read quite a bit of your book. And usually what you say is that the reason people reproduce is out of selfishness and because we are propagandized and we've had this idea imposed on us from a young age, that we don't have a natural drive to actually have children, but a natural drive only to
This is
have the
debate
sex
prep, ladies
that
and gentlemen.
produces
Learn it.
children. So do you believe that?
Get
Well,
right
that
to
accurate?
it. Yeah.
I think that when we
Own
don't
your
think
fucking
about it,
positions,
when we're
you
not
fucking
considering
demonic
this
fucking
idea
wench.
philosophically, when we're just acting,
Own them.
Yeah, I think it's mostly the sex drive in action, and then yes, there is more of the ideology or the what I can't think of the correct word for it, but there is natalism as a philosophy all its own that some people like yourself take on. So yeah, I mean, I think that both things can be true. I think both
So
things are true.
fundamentally what I'm asking here is
Yeah.
why should somebody, if they're listening to both our views, and mine is that from the Orthodox Christian worldview, which is different than other types of Christianity, we believe that the purpose for existence is something called theosis, that you are born and created by a loving creator in his image, and that the purpose of our lives here is to prepare us for the next life, that this one is temporary, that the next one is eternal, and that it is to, through humility and love and repentance, to find our way back to God and what we were originally created to be before evil entered the world, which gives our suffering and our trials purpose and meaning, and it gives love and natalism meaning. And contrast that with your worldview, which is there is no God. Everything's kind of a biological accident. There was just enough time and enough conditions that we just ended up here. We really don't want to reproduce. We really just want to have sex. And there's, no reason to impose life, which is terrible and a net negative, right? It's all this suffering life. There's even a guy, an antinatalist, who has a channel called Life Sucks. And, I've seen a lot of your podcasts with a lot of these folks. And again, here and in your soft white underbelly interview, you come off as, well, I'm just trying to be reasonable. I'm just trying, I'm trying to reason with people and get them to understand it's actually an immoral thing to do, to impose existence on someone who can't consent to it. But there's a whole lot of problems with that, and we can get into that. But why would anybody hear your view and think it's more reasonable than my view? What's the actual
Well-
epistemology? How do you know that I'm wrong and that you're correct about the nature of life and that there is no creator and that this is all just a biological accident?
Well, I don't know that you're wrong in any kind of absolute sense, and my mind is always open to the possibility of being changed. But I also, what matters most is why. I guess a question for you is, why are you so sure that the people that you will produce, or people with your like-minded view to produce, will accept your worldview? Because again, is what I was saying.
Oh, I'm not at all. I'm not at all convinced
So
of that.
why take that risk?
There's every chance that out of the 5 children I have, 1, 2, maybe 4 or 5, maybe all of them will become atheists. They won't believe in Christianity anymore at all. That doesn't mean that I don't still have the imperative to do what the Lord says, which is go forth and multiply, to make more image bearers of God who could potentially be good moral agents in the world. And that even if they aren't, and even if there is suffering in their lives or they cause suffering for others, that God can bring good from that suffering. So the Christian worldview says, yes, there's suffering, but God has decided that there, like a famous quote from Augustine, that the Lord has decided that there's more utility in that suffering and that it can be used for more good than for bad. And I don't believe that I have enough knowledge, because I can't foresee all ends. So part of this worldview that you have is that morality basically boils down to consent, which is something I've wanted to debate for a long time, because I've heard so many utilitarians and libertarians and like even liberals argue this, that consent forms the basis for all morality, which I think is silly and stupid on its face. You can't say that consent is the only thing. We could consent to things that are harmful, to things that are bad, even if we agree that those things are bad. So consent doesn't make it moral. So what's your basis for saying, because you guys say, right, unless you have another argument I'm not aware of, your argument is that you shouldn't bring humans into existence because they can't consent to existing.
Here comes the demon.
Before they're born.
It is a antinatalist argument based on consent, and I bring it up because it just is an argument that a lot of people conform to. I don't typically make that argument myself, because it's very easy to get caught up in
your bullshit.
People get kind of lost in that. More so, what I posit is that it is a risk to create new human beings, that you may have these beliefs about bringing more children to the glory of God, and that God will protect them, and this is what he wants, and you're a vessel for that idea. But just the idea that this might not be a reality that your children accept, and that they may come to really be quite angry at you, not happy with the decisions made for them. I can't imagine you're a very intelligent person, and you can see the other side of what your child might experience, despite what it is that you believe to be the correct thing.
She just gave the side eye.
How you mentally make that leap over into finding that to be an acceptable proposition. I'm sorry to get. I wish absolutely nothing but
doesn't
the
bother me
happiest
at
of
all.
lives for you and your children.
Well, this is the problem with negative utilitarianism to begin with. It boils everything down to all life experiences being valued with some type of scale, from negative to positive, from suffering to pleasure. And I'm wondering if you can tell me, because when I think of life, I think of life experiences usually being a mix of pleasurable and suffering, right?
Sure,
so like
sure.
I love working out. I've been weightlifting for 17 years. Leg day is both pain and suffering and pleasure
By the
and
way,
satisfaction for me and for
she
everybody
looking
else who's ever done a hard leg
amazing,
day.
ladies
Can you
and
tell me
gentlemen.
where the line is
She looks
between
amazing.
suffering and pleasure, and how do we know where that line is?
Well, I don't think we're really in disagreement with that. I think life is all kinds of things. I don't think that it is all suffering. I think that the
You
suffering
guys want to
is
have
what
one with
has
me?
the most value.
An early
particularly when you're
post-mortem drink,
imposing
shall
it
we?
on another person or another sentient being. So my line in the sand is going to be very
Cheers,
different
ladies and
than
gentlemen.
what your line in the sand is, or what the child that you create is going to be. It matters what that individual says, not me. What I'm saying is that objectively speaking, that line is going to be all over the place. And before we create that new person, we just don't know what it's going to be. And we're asking them to accept this line. We're asking them to say, well, I find this particular,
I work out constantly now. What do you mean?
To be an acceptable price. But it really, I mean, it sounds even absurd to me to say like, well,
you don't believe me?
Because
Fuck,
of leg
watch
day.
this.
But I'm just saying that may very well
watch this
be
shit.
An unacceptable reality
like
to this new person. And so why not take the fail safe?
Yeah, baby.
So sure of the existence of a god and this being the meaning that you have to create out of your own sense of purpose.
Do you see that shit?
You're willing to make
other non-existent
individual pay that price.
Wow. I gotta say, it's a little disappointing that we ended up so quickly, right at the point that I end up with all utilitarians, where they basically concede, hey, my whole worldview is arbitrary, it's subjective, it's just based on personal preference. And when you say, how can you take that risk? Well, I'll explain. It kind of goes back to Pascal's wager here, but it's a little bit even more in depth than that. And I didn't think we'd get into metaphysics this quickly, but the risk you're taking by assuming your worldview is correct, which you don't have any good foundation to believe your world is correct, that there's no creator, that there's no purpose, that there is no utility in suffering. So with this problem that you have, if life has no meaning, there is no God, there are no higher duties, then we have no reason we ought to value consent. We have no reason we ought to care about suffering whatsoever. And you cannot, your worldview basically, if you're wrong and there is a God and life after this mortal life is eternal, you're basically condemning everyone to eternal suffering if you ever got your way and had extinction. Me, on the other hand, if I'm right, at least some people get eternal well-being. Maybe a lot of people get eternal well-being. And those who didn't, and if I'm wrong, all we get is right? If you're right about the world, then when we die, we just have everlasting neutrality, everlasting peace. We just go to sleep. We never wake up. And we suffered for a short, finite amount of time when we were here, but that's not so bad. So I would say that, but even more than that, even more than this question of, we could always just go back to we both have axioms and whatever, but yours are particularly unfounded because we could just look at transcendental categories, the logic required for you and I to be here and think through these things, for us to be sentient, for us to think through the logic of our arguments. Hard to justify that if there's no God. Let's go back to your red button experiment. And would you prefer to end all life, or do you just advocate for ending sentient life?
So you said a lot of things there, and maybe we'll jump back to some of those other points. But no, I think it would be best if all life ceased to be. Now, I don't. That's not to say that insentient life is suffering, but there is just a reality to the fact that a plant is either in a state of deprivation or not. It is alive or not, and that to me spells unintelligent design. Even if something it made it, it certainly didn't think about it certainly didn't have a sense of value for the sense that this thing could be either deprived or not. And I think that sucks. I
bring out the demon, baby.
You say that my worldview is the more outlandish one, but I don't know how you can be so sure that there is this higher power. And if there isn't, then you have sacrificed the beings that you
she walked into the
most
snare, not
for the
Rachel.
sake of
And
this.
here comes the snare.
And I hope, and I mean this sincerely,
What a fool.
that your children or children that come into existence
Watch
do
the
not have
snare.
a
She just walked
but
into
they
it.
very well might. And so I just don't understand. I know I'm repeating myself, but I just don't understand how you can take that chance. The fail safe is to not play God, is to not assume what God wants, because he may very well not exist. I don't think that he does, but you yourself are playing the deity
To the crew.
when you procreate. So
She just walked into the worst trap
actually
ever.
The opposite. You guys with your position are the ones that think you're God. You have the arrogance to believe that you can see all ends, that you can take a utility calculus and decide what's moral, what's good, what's bad, that you've already decided there is no purpose to existence or suffering. You paid a little lip service, but that's not really what you believe. And it's funny because you guys will say you're atheist, but actually what you're espousing is a Gnostic worldview, that existence is a trap. It's a prison that must be escaped. This life that we're born into.
Oh, you paid attention real fucking quick when you heard Gnostic, didn't you?
In your opening, you were talking
paid
about
attention real quick. We saw the Ouroboros.
They are anathematized in the
I saw the
church.
Ouroboros on this
Everything about their
woman's
belief
literature.
system
I know
is
exactly
the
what
exact
she is.
Opposite of Christianity.
Well,
Which
I saw the Ouroboros.
Yeah,
He was a prior Manichaean too. So
yeah, we saw the Ouroboros. We knew. You stamped your fucking work with exactly what you are.
A more orthodox Christianity could survive.
No.
So I don't.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean that in your soft white underbelly interview, I know you said in there that you were kind of unemployed or partially employed. Did I hear you say that you're a caregiver?
Yeah. Yes, I'm a caregiver.
Would that be for elder people, sick people, children?
An elderly person. I'd rather not get into
sure. I don't want you to dox
I don't really
yourself.
see how
I don't
that
want
matters.
you to give any details, but well, I think it matters tremendously. I would not want someone taking care of elderly people who thinks that life is not worth living and that sentient life should be wiped out. That seems like a major conflict of interest.
I think it's a major. I mean,
you
listen,
to say that I'm the one taking the leap by saying, "Hey, I'll err on the side of a God existing." Now, it's not that I'm certain. I don't think either of us are going to say we're certain in a logical sense. But have you ever heard of the transcendental argument for God and the argument that transcendental categories prove there must be? Okay, you should probably look that up sometime. It's probably beyond the scope of this. But do you think that the laws of logic are discovered or did we create them?
I think that they're discovered.
Okay, so that would lend to the idea that something beyond the physical material world pre-exists this physical material world, that some mind had to exist for this physical world to exist. So you're not actually a biological essentialist. You're not actually a full materialist, and you don't even know it. I just expected more from somebody who wrote a philosophy book. I thought we were going to get into negative utilitarianism. I was Philbroing. I was exercising my Philbro muscles in my brain because I haven't used them in a while because I'm usually just debating feminists who are like, I don't know, I just think like I should be able to do whatever I want and stuff.
Okay.
So I really thought we were going to get into that. So I'm a little disappointed about that. Well, I thought there would be more than incredulousness that you don't believe God exists, and
I think it's very simple. I think there's no God. I think there's ouch, and I think that there's fail safes. I think people have sex drives, and we come to have ideas about the world, and we either throw people into those risk
just finish this
or not.
fucking idiot off
make people,
so she's never taken seriously again. Just end her.
We believe or we don't.
Stop playing with your food now,
really
honey.
Much more difficult.
She's not even.
It's much
what
more,
a waste of fucking time.
Complicated.
How did this woman get on soft white underbelly?
To say that it is better not.
How did this fucking broad get on soft white underbelly? Just finish her.
The best way to not make people suffer is to not reach out into nothing and pull somebody out of it for absolutely no reason.
Well, since you've already conceded that we do not have the technology to wipe out life right now, you and I, at best, we have a few decades left in this mortal coil.
Sure.
So in the decades you have left, you get some sort of purpose from putting these ideas out there.
Sure.
You've taken the trouble to write a book. You've been making videos for almost 15 years. You're here. So what is it that you would prescribe? What are your prescriptions for what we ought to do to, and why should we do them? I don't want to assign
we're all those of us that are already here. Let's live out the rest of our lives if we choose to. I believe that people should have the ability to, with medical, intervention, end their lives if they decide to.
Trap number 2.
But let's live out our lives. Let's not make anybody else.
Watch the snare, my friends.
Let's just exit it, and
she
let's
just
try
walked right into
what
it.
We can do in the most
God help her.
Compassionate way possible for the rest of sentient and non-sentient life. Let's put nothing else in harm's way. as much.
Watch
as
what happens here.
Ending we can.
All the fatalities
Rachel,
about
we can
here.
Throw the "you're selfish, I'm selfish" thing at each other all day
no.
long. I don't think it's going to get either of us anywhere. And you've done it.
Just finish her.
But I don't think there's much else to say. You're either throwing things into the possibility of suffering or not.
I'd like to walk through the practical implications of what you'd like to do. So I know that you've done some work with the organization Stop Having Kids, right?
Well,
a little bit, like just maybe showed up some of their events. So if you guys got your wish and you convinced most people to stop having kids, we're not talking about ending anyone. We're not talking about deleting anyone. We're just talking about not making new people. What do you think would happen if you guys got your way? World population, it's already, if people think that Amanda's crazy and this debate isn't worth having, just take a look at the birth rates right now. Okay.
But they're not
because
being
with
convinced
science and
by
technology and liberal,
let's also be clear about
what's that?
People aren't choosing not to have children because of anti-natalism.
Yes, they are.
No, but I'm just saying, like, but you could argue, and I do in my book, that Malthusian propaganda has had a big impact, that environmentalist propaganda has had a big impact, that feminist propaganda of all has had the most impact in convincing women of this mentality that life is a prison, motherhood is a prison, that you're trapped, that you can't live your best life, that children are a ball and chain, that just being a baby factory is gross and weird.
I can see
so
this fucking thing.
This
there we go.
New atheism and industrialism and
come on,
has
give us the real you.
Bad
give us
work,
the
in
real
my
you.
opinion. It's been more
Let us
effective than I would
see
like
you.
it to be. But let's just say that it keeps going down this path. Let's say we continue and the birth rate continues to decline, and the broad antinatalist perspective takes over, and eventually we do have just a very tiny population, and eventually no human beings
this isn't
at all.
her yet.
What does that mean for the rest of life on this planet?
Well, it means that human beings are either going to value being the stewards of the rest of life or not. It either means that the animals, we're going to do something to make sure that animals are not trapped in the cycle of sentience forever or for an indefinite period of time.
We can't.
And that their suffering doesn't go on and on and on. We're either going to value that, or we're going to allow animals to inherit the earth. Now, antinatalism is not a monolith on that subject at all. There are forms of antinatalism, like the voluntary human extinction movement, that does believe that we should allow the animals to inherit the earth. That is not my view. I believe that we should do something.
What should we do?
What?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And
nothing.
I am not. I mean, I am
nothing.
I'm trying to make an argument for
nothing.
what I believe is the correct path. Now, how you implement that, how you engineer a graceful exit for all of sentient kind or all of life, it's a lot more than a schmucky little artist, can figure out. And I've said that again and again and again. I believe that this is sort of something that humanity needs to take on as a future project.
So it doesn't sound like, in all your years of thinking about this, talking with people about this, and doing this work, it doesn't sound like you've solved the problem of what happens if we do succeed in erasing human beings from the planet, and now the world is just filled with sentient animal life, which does not have medicine, has no free will or any idea of benevolence or justice or charity, cannot mitigate pain at all. It would just be a world of sentient beings with predator-prey relationships. There would be death. There would be things eating each other alive. There would be flesh-eating bacteria.
That's exactly the reality I'm arguing against.
Then you're a pronatalist.
Human beings need to take some responsibility for the fact that will be the circumstance that we leave behind.
But now, we've already established that you don't know of any technology that could ensure.
Well, I don't. Human beings have gone to the goddamn moon. I'm sure that if humanity as a greater whole than a couple of people on the internet arguing for this point could put their heads together, I'm sure that humanity could find a reasonable course of action. Listen, we do sterilize animals in the wild even now. we do. There are certain we unfortunately,
if this debate is stupid, then I
species
suggest that you
to
leave.
horrific extinction. Even now, I believe that there has to be ways in which we could do that in a more benevolent fashion. So I don't think that these are these are circumstances that we can't possibly find the tools for.
We do have the tools.
I'm trying to do is make the argument that this is the correct end game, that this is something that we should value, and this is something that humanity has to value and work on. Now,
but what we don't want to do is espouse an idea like this and then have, because right now there's some pretty smart people out there who've talked about this. You're not the only one, I'm not the only one who's had these discussions. And as far as we know, scientists say, even if you had your red button, and guys, the red button thought experiment is, if you had a red button and by pushing it you could explode the world or just poof it out of existence somehow, would that be the moral thing to do? Amanda's position, she said a million times, yes, 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 she would hit the red button. Now, here's the problem. From her worldview, with evolution, there is no way she could guarantee that life would not just come back.
It's
It
true.
would come back possibly in an even more malevolent form with more suffering than what we have right now. And on a practical level, if she wants people to start trending towards depopulation, we will get the hell world I just described. If human beings cease to exist, if we end up like South Korea, which has a birth rate of like 0.7 right now, that's an extinction level birth rate. If you were to continue that, there becomes a tipping point where population scientists say there's not much coming back from that, at least not to have the world we have now. It would be something else. So you take this huge risk of having a world with infinitely more suffering and no benevolent human beings, no Christians, nobody with a higher nobility or an idea of justice or benevolence or charity or helping others for no reason.
Now let's see the demon.
You run a very legitimate risk with Amanda's prescriptions of inheriting a hell world of nothing but suffering with no human beings that have free will there to do anything to mitigate it whatsoever. So why, in the situation we find ourselves now, with the technology we have and the knowledge we have now, after thousands of years of philosophy and science and now hundreds of years of technology, why doesn't it make sense to take the most benevolent people who have a universal moral ethical code that does seem to give people purpose and mitigate suffering? When you look at the happiness index, Christians and religious people are the happiest on average. But even more than that, people who are like born sick and live lives filled with suffering say they want to exist and that they do find meaning in their suffering. Why not lean into that? Why not push for a more pronatalist policy with less animals? Because animals have a much more suffering existence. So more people, less animals, less suffering from your utilitarian worldview. So from your own worldview, my prescription would cause less suffering, and yours would almost, don't see a way around it. I'm waiting for you to give me a way around how your worldview doesn't inevitably result in even more suffering.
Well, look, I think that Christianity has played a very large hand in getting the world to the state that it's in right now.
There we go.
So the idea that
bring it out.
Christians are the most benevolent among us.
There we go.
Have not created a world in which
knew it.
People are not
Fucking knew
as
it.
much as you would like to see.
Yes.
And have created a world where
all
the suffering exists.
I literally predicted that she would say this.
Well, you raise a great point.
Literally predicted
I'll just interrupt
this.
you quickly to say that you're correct. Christians are responsible for things like human rights, for things like hospitals, for things like medical technology. There is no reason and tell me if I'm wrong. I've never heard an argument against this yet, but from your view, there's no need. There's no reason to eliminate suffering. There's no reason to reduce suffering. There's no need to care about consent or injustice or fix anything. If life has no meaning and there is no creator and everything boils down to preference and just my arbitrary experience of negative versus positive utils and there is no reason for anyone to have this greater moral ought that tells them to leave a better world than they found it.
Well, you're right. I mean, the world is chaos without this fiction that humanity has created of a god.
The world is worse without Christianity.
Theory. So I understand that, but it's just that. I'm sorry, and I don't mean to offend you, but it is a fiction. It is something that humanity has created in order to control humanity.
That?
What do you mean? Can you demonstrate it?
Can you demonstrate that my worldview is not true?
Well, I don't believe that there's any evidence of it.
Well, that's nice. I think that's not a demonstration.
Humanity has created to control other human beings to behave in a particular manner.
So you just admitted that the world is worse without Christians, and that the only reason you don't believe that God exists or that Christianity is true is just an argument from incredulity. You just don't believe it.
One, because it's killed a lot of people and it's terrified a lot of people, and I think that that other forms of morality have not really been able to have the chance. If we can.
Oh, really? You don't think that in all of human history, other moral systems have had a chance? So you think negative Christianity can do better?
Yes, I do.
Okay, on what basis?
Well, look, there has never been a negative utilitarian world, right? So I can just say that I think that a world that values difference and values the elimination of suffering.
Love the fact that the Wilsons kick everyone's ass all the time.
Christians are just perpetuating.
That's a terrible song, by the way.
For absolutely no purpose other than this belief that it's appeasing some god that I don't think exists, but you do. I don't think that that's creating a better world. I just think that if anything is to be followed, it's that we know that suffering is something that people don't enjoy experiencing. So there's no reason to attach any sort of deity to that.
It is a banger
notion. There's just reason to not impose it on new animals, new people. It's just yeah.
So you can't.
Just really quickly, guys. Really quickly interrupt.
No, you can't. Shut up, Jake.
We're gonna get straight.